In this video, you're going to learn the very basics of React Responsive and things like media query and even their different hooks that they have. So these 5 over here. And just as an example, right here we have an image which only shows whenever the screen is larger than an iPad. As soon as it gets smaller, then the image disappears. And you may think that you can also do that with Tailwind, which of course you can, but there are advantages when it comes to using React Responsive than Tailwind, which you're going to learn in this video. So make sure to watch this whole video, and without wasting any more time, let's get started. Over here, I have a plain Next.js project. I haven't even done anything. I just used npm run dev and opened it on the side. But if you want to follow along, then make sure that you also make a Next.js project. But the first thing that you're going to want to do is have this dependency called React Responsive and make sure they install it. And I do have this opened up, which I'm going to leave down in the description below. But if we scroll down, we can see that from React Responsive, we get a few different hooks. So first thing that we're going to have to do is import use media from React Responsive. So let's go ahead and do that. Import use media query from React Responsive. And over here, we're going to get all of these different hooks. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and paste it over here. And now I'm going to console log is big screen, or we can start with is desktop, then is big screen, and then after that is tablet or mobile. Go back in here and see what we get in our console log, which I'm going to change this a little bit, but let's refresh. I have to use client over here because it is a hook. And over here, we're getting false, false, and true. So this right here is going to be a Boolean, and it's going to be checking for the min width in this case. So if the min width is 1224 pixels, then that means that the user is using a desktop. If it's 1824, then it's going to be a big screen. So something like a TV or anything similar to that. Then there's tablets, so that's usually phones. So anything under 1224 pixels, then that would be a small screen. So currently we can see that we get true for the tablet or mobile, which means that this is probably going to be the dimensions of an iPad or something similar to that. But now if we open this in full screen, we can see that we get true, true, and false. And then if we make this a little bit bigger, so somewhere maybe here, I'm gonna try to get it to be desktop, which it is now. So currently we're getting true for desktop, then false for big screen, and then false for mobile. And now you may ask, how can I actually use this? Well, the first thing that you can do is do different things like, let's just say we only want to have this image for large screens. Well, it's pretty easy to do that. We can write is desktop or laptop, or we can even write not is tablet or mobile. Then we're going to put the image in there. And now if we refresh, we can see that the image is gone. And you can really do this with anything. So this could apply with styles. And I forgot to mention that this is the wrong way to do it because you can see there's an error down in there, but I'm going to show you later on in the video the right way to do this. And if you know Tailwind pretty well, you can say that another thing that you can do is set the class name to hidden, and then maybe on medium set it to block. But now we can see that the image is gone. And then when you get to a medium sized window, we can see that it appears. So what's the point of React Responsive? Well, the really nice thing that you can do is actually combine React Responsive with Tailwind. So all that you're going to have to do is change the dimensioning here a little bit. So you can go to Tailwind Media Queries, go in here, make sure it's the latest version, which it is. And then you can see these widths and then match it with here. But let's take a look at what we can do here. So I'm going to copy this return, paste this in here, and then go back in here. So let's take a look at the code first. We have an H1. Then if this is a desktop, then it's going to say that you're using a desktop or a laptop. Then if it's a big screen, then you're going to say that you have a huge screen. Same goes for mobile. And we have 2 more hooks. One's going to be is portrait, which is going to say if you're in portrait or landscape mode. And currently we are going to be in portrait. But if I maximize this again, then we can see that it's going to say landscape orientation. And that also changes on your phone whenever you rotate it. So it usually just does that automatically. But funny enough, Tailwind also has this feature. So you can do the same by, let's just go in here. I'm going to add a paragraph that's going to say class name. If we are in portrait, then it's going to be hidden. And then here I'm just going to say hello world. So right now we're not going to see the text, but as soon as I make this larger, then we can see it again. And for Retina, you don't have to worry about it. It's just for a type of screen that has really high resolution. So if I'm being honest, you can remove that. But if I change the sizing here, we can see how this gets larger. So currently it's going to be tablet or mobile phone. And now it's going to change to landscape here. And if I make it even larger, it's going to be desktop or laptop. And then if I open it, then it's going to say huge screen. So I can close that. And I'm going to go over the main reason why you would ever actually use React Responsive, because currently all of this stuff you can do with Tailwind, But the other thing that you can't do with Tailwind is not loading elements depending on the dimensions of your screen. So let's just say that you have a really big project and maybe you even have 3D models and that kind of stuff. You're not going to want to render all of the models because some are going to be in the background for larger screens and that kind of stuff, and you're not going to want them to be on a mobile phone. So the best thing to do is use React Responsive and just not show it instead of using Tailwind, because Tailwind would still load those components, and that will of course slow down the frames of your website. And another example of where React Responsive would come in handy is with Three.js, because whenever you have 3D models on smaller and larger screens, you are going to want to change the positioning a little bit, maybe even the size. So one thing that you can do is maybe make an object. So let's just say positions, and then here you can say on small screen you want this to be 0, 0, 0, and then maybe larger screens you're going to want to do, I don't know, 5, 10, 15. Or another thing that you can do is make a different one. So positions, you can make an array, and this one you're going to know that this one is for smaller screens, so 0, 0, 0, and then this one you could have for larger screens. And then let's just say that I had a model here, so let's say this was my mesh, which of course is not going to work because I don't have this dependency. And then I would have my position here. And of course, depending on if this is desktop or a laptop, then I can set the positioning to be small, which would be this right here, and that would be the positioning, or I can set that to larger, which would be that. So again, this is just another example of where this would be handy. But again, the reason why it's useful is for not having too many objects being rendered in the background that you're not going to use on mobile or maybe even desktops, because that will of course reduce the performance of your website. But now there's one more thing that I want to show, and that would be components. So this part right here, there's a better way of doing what we did before. So let's just say we had this image, and then if it was tablet, then we didn't want to show it. Again, there's a better way to do that. So here we're going to import something different. This is going to be media query, and then I'm going to use client, which I'm not sure if I need right now. Let's just say that I want to show this image when the dimensions were larger than 768. So that's somewhere around an iPad. So let's put the image in there. Let's refresh. There's no image. But as soon as it gets to larger than 768, then we can see the image. So this is just a cleaner way of doing this. And if you do want to read the docs, of course, you're welcome to do it and take a look at different stuff that they have. But this is just a very basic video of how you can use React Responsive. So this is where I'm going to end it. So I really hope that you enjoyed it. And if you learned something new, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe to this channel to not miss any upcoming content like this. Comment down below if you have any questions, or if you have anything else that you'd like to say, and hopefully see you in the next video.